Before I ask you about one but several really exciting studies, let me ask sort of a personal question for me. So if I wanted to get psychedelics from the MAPS Public Benefit Corporation and explore my own mind, how do I get to do that? And when?
You won't be able to. You'll never be able to.
This is very unfortunate.
Because the reason is because the Benefit Corp is designed as a pharmaceutical company.
Mm-hmm.
So we can only work on clinical indications. So let's say you come to me and you just say, oh, I'm really depressed. Can I get MDMA to overcome my depression or overcome my PTSD? We'll have to do research in those indications.
And by when you say me, you mean like a doctor. So this would be prescribed in theory by doctors. So this would go through a doctor.
Yes.
And a prescription. Okay, let me ask another question.
But to further answer, so that's where the drug policy arm comes in, the drug policy reform. So you should be able to get access to psychedelics for your own personal growth.
Yes.
But that's not medicine. So that's why we need to medicalize, to have things covered by insurance, to change people's attitudes, the public attitudes, and then we get this subsequent drug policy reform. And we're talking about it in terms of licensed legalization. So my view is you should get a license to do psychedelics, you get a little education stuff, and then you should be able to buy it and do it on your own.
So let me rephrase the question in more specifically. So when can I, if I happen to have ailments of some kind where the doctor decides that psychedelics could help, when would you be a loose estimate for you of when a doctor will be able to prescribe to me something from MAPS Public Benefit Co.
Mm-hmm.
And then when, for my personal growth and creativity, would I be able to get something? So like just looking out, this isn't like guaranteed, but like your vision, your hope for psychedelics in society.
Well, the end of 2023, so 2.5 years from now, we anticipate FDA approval for the prescription use of MDMA for PTSD. Because the FDA does not regulate the practice of medicine, there is what's called off-label prescription. What that means, the label is what it's approved for. So the label will say, this is approved for PTSD, but let's say you come in anything else, social anxiety or whatever, you can go to the doctor, they can give it to you. It might not be covered by insurance. They have to be a little bit careful about malpractice but I think the end of 2023 is when you will be able to do that. Now, there's actually another program, very limited, called Expanded Access, which is compassionate use, which means that, and we have approval for 50 people for compassionate use right now. We think that'll grow. So that's going to open up in about 2 months. And so those are people with PTSD. They have to be treatment resistant. Nothing has worked for them. And they can access MDMA while we're doing the phase 3 studies.
Wow.
But they have to pay for it themselves. The sponsor has to pay for all the research, but expanded access, because there's no control group, everybody gets the MDMA, people can pay for it themselves. And we think that'll start in a couple months. But it's very limited. It's limited to certain cities. There's also a program called Right to Try, which is passed through Congress. It's similar to this idea of compassionate use, but it cuts the FDA out of it, and patients can negotiate directly with pharma companies to get access to their drugs. That's starting to happen, I think, in Canada now. They're letting people have compassionate access to psilocybin for life-threatening illness, because there has been studies with psilocybin for cancer patients and others with life-threatening illness. As far as your question about when will you be able to access this for personal growth outside of medicine, I'll take that to mean, fully legally, where you can just go buy pure drugs somewhere. When will that happen? We already are starting to see the decriminalization in certain areas of plant psychedelics. And we see overall drug decrim, like that passed in Oregon, so that any drug is now, it's not legal. You can't really fully set up clinics to offer it to people, or there's no legal supply like that, but it's decriminalized. So my sense of things is based a lot on watching what happened with medical marijuana and marijuana legalization. So we're sitting here in Massachusetts where marijuana is legal, but what happened first was medical marijuana. So what we see is that medicalization, by demonstrating that under certain contexts, the risks are much less than the benefits. And then there are benefits. And then people hear stories about people that have gotten better. And then that changes their minds. And then eventually that builds up to, why are we throwing people in jail for
Shifts
this?
the culture, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that what we're going to have, 2023 is MDMA approved by the FDA, chances are. Psilocybin will be a year or two after that. Then what we're going to need is a decade of psychedelic clinics that are going to roll out across America, also other countries as well, thousands of these psychedelic clinics. We already have hundreds of ketamine clinics that are ketamine for depression. More and more people are realizing that ketamine, when it's used with therapy, it's better than when it's not. But the therapists want to be psychedelic therapists. They don't want to be a ketamine therapist or an MDMA therapist. So they'll be cross-trained. So we will have a decade of these thousands of psychedelic clinics and all these stories of people getting better. In 2035 is when I think that we will move to licensed legalization, which is when you will have the option of just going somewhere. Once you've done this educational stuff, potentially, I also think it would be better to have the opportunity for people to go for free, paid for by tax money, to these clinics, and you have your first experience with psychedelics under supervision. And you know what you're getting into. You've, passed a questionnaire, what the risks are with the drugs, then you get your license. So 2035 is when I think that'll happen. And the clinics will be sites of these initiations.
Yes. And so it'll be a safe environment, just like you said, all the things that are actually maximize the likelihood of a pleasant experience and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It is a frustratingly slow process. And the FDA being part of that process is very frustrating. That, of course, there's benefits, but boy, well, I wish it could move a lot faster.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I've learned from being a parent is that when you have little kids, it seems like they'll be with you forever. But then when they grow up and they go to college and they leave, you look back and like, where did that 20 years go? Or, so we're still dealing with the legacy of the Civil War and slavery in America.
Yeah.
So actually a 20-year plan is not that long.
Yeah.
So while we say it's frustratingly slow, and it is, it's 50 years since the psychedelic 60s. And, when right now it's 36 years since MDMA was criminalized. And you think about all those people that committed suicide from PTSD or from anything else, and all those people that could have been helped if the DEA had accepted the administrative law judge recommendation that MDMA stay in Schedule 3. It's tremendously sad. At the same time, culture evolves slowly. You read the Bible or you read all this stuff. We're not that different from people thousands of years ago. So how are we going to really evolve enough over the next couple decades so we don't destroy the planet and don't kill each other? That's why I think psychedelics have an important role to play. That's why I've devoted my life to psychedelics. And it is frustratingly slow. And what I said to myself is our whole effort has not been fast enough.